As most of you are well aware, the 2-5-1 cadence is the most frequently recurring chord progression in jazz. If using the analogy that jazz is a language, when we improvise, it is helpful to think of these short 3-chord progressions as given spaces over which we can formulate our sentences. For example, if we have a 2-5-1 consisting of D minor 7, G7 and C major 7, we don't want to create a separate idea over each chord. We want to create one unified statement over all 3 chords and come to a final resolution over the C major 7. That's where we place the period. We want to condition our minds to identify these 2-5-1 units within any standard and be prepared to improvise or comp over them flawlessly. However, this is easier said than done and requires ongoing practice. But worry not, because to help you better organize and prepare for your practice, in this lesson I'm going to share 8 of the most important 2-5-1 variations that you will encounter in most jazz standards. And in doing so, I'm going to also give you several examples of popular standards where you can find each one of these variations. I'm Richie Zellen, and I want to welcome you to the Jazz Guitar channel. Next, I'm going to group these 8 variations into 3 categories: major 2-5-1s, minor 2-5-1s, and what I like to call mixed 2-5-1s. And I recommend that you practice each variation in 4 and 2 measure groups in as many keys and fingerings as possible. The first 4 variations are over the major 2-5-1 category, and to begin, let me play the garden variety major 2-5-1 everyone learns first. Category 1. I'm sure you've heard that a million times. Of course, I'm playing it with some added extensions. D minor 7 with a 9, G7 with a 13, and C major 7 with the 9th. And throughout I'll be playing all the voicings with the root either on the 5th or 6th string. So this will enable you to easier visualize where the root is. And tunes containing this cadence are endless. But let me just mention a few of them which you definitely have to know. Let's start with Autumn Leaves. 2 minor chord, 5 chord, and the 1 chord. So 2-5-1. Another one you probably have heard is All the Things You Are, and I'm referring here specifically to the beginning of the bridge, where it goes. 2 minor chord, 5 chord, and 1 chord. Another tune you might have heard, which starts out with this cadence, is Neil Hefti's Cute. Variation 2 simply inserts a 5-7 altered or flat 9 instead of the regular Mixolydian based 5-7. And the chords are so this is the one that's varying there. One of my favorite tunes that uses this chord progression is Laura. And here it is using this 2-5-1 in G. Another one is Misty, the bridge. Variation 3 is very similar to Variation 2. Well, all of these are similar because they're all 2-5-1s, but simply uses what we call the tritone substitute of the dominant. And we're substituting that 5-7 altered or 5-7 flat 9, a tritone up or down, and we have what we call the D flat 7 in this case, sharp 11. And it really has the same notes as in the 5-7 altered, only with the root over the tritone. So and of course we use the Dorian here over the 2 minor chord, but over the flat 2 dominant with the sharp 11 we use the Lydian dominant. And all the Lydian dominant is like the Mixolydian, only with a raised fourth. A lot of the Jobim bossa novas use this progression, and of course, Girl from Ipanema is the first one that comes to mind. The segment that goes like this. Also, One Note Samba has the same 2-5 in the key of B flat when it ends the A section. Variation 4 uses a dominant in place of the 2 minor. So this is what is actually known as a secondary dominant of the 5 chord. Over this dominant over the 2 chord, we can use a Mixolydian, or we can also use a Lydian dominant. And some tunes that come to mind. First we have Duke Ellington's In a Mellow Tone. Also, Our Love Is Here to Stay, Gershwin. Category 2. Variation 5 uses the 2 minor 7 flat 5 with a Locrian. You can also use the Locrian natural 2. Going to usually a 5-7 altered chord, which uses again the Superlocrian or the Phrygian dominant, and resolves to a 1 minor 7 using the Aeolian or natural minor, or you can also use the melodic minor. So we'll run into this, and we'll also run into this. And tunes that use this minor 2-5, many of them, but of course one of the first ones that comes to mind that everybody is familiar with is Autumn Leaves on the bridge. Also Blue Bossa, the part that goes. And the beginning of Beautiful Love. variation 6 just substitutes the 5-7 altered for the tritone. So we have the 2 minor 7 flat 5, and then instead of the 5-7 altered, we have the flat 2 dominant with the sharp 11. And we resolve to 1 minor, which could be the minor 7th, or again, the minor major 7. I hope you are enjoying and finding this lesson useful. If so, you can download the free 4-page PDF of all the 8 251 variations along with their examples simply by going to jazzguitar.richiezeland.com and registering for my free newsletter. Also, before continuing, for those interested in getting a solid jazz education, I want to let you know that I've got an online course called the Bebop Guitar Improv Series, which I structured over a period of 10 years after actually studying with several jazz legends and also teaching at various great universities. And in it, I teach a structured step-by-step program that is guaranteed to take your playing to the next level. And it consists of 6 books and hundreds of lesson videos with assignments that progress in order of gradual difficulty until you have all the pieces that will enable you to improvise just like the pros. And the best deal is that it is extremely affordable. For more info, please visit bebopguitar.richiezeland.com and you will find a direct link in the info section down below. Next, I would like to introduce you to some final varieties in what I like to call the mixed 251 category. And I call it this because unlike the previous 2 categories, this one is a perfect combination of minor and major. This is achieved through what we call modal interchange, which consists of borrowing chords from a parallel minor tonality and placing them in a major tonality. So in this case, we are borrowing the 2 and the 5 chords from the key of C minor and resolving them to the 1 chord in C major. Let me play the most representative cadence of this category. Category 3. Variation 7, 2 minor 7 flat 5, 5-7 flat 9, or altered. So far we have 2 defining chords of a minor cadence, but what happens next? It doesn't resolve to minor, it resolves to a 1 major 7. Very deceptive. Some like to call this the Cole Porter 251 because so many of his compositions contain this cadence. For example, Night and Day. Also, I Love You. Also, what is this thing called Love? Here it is. Variation 8 is identical to this previous one, only that it substitutes the 5-7 altered for the tritone. So this time we have although there are a few other variations I could cover, these I believe are the 8 251 variations you will most frequently encounter when playing through most standards, especially those associated with what some like to call the Great American Songbook. If you are new to jazz and are in it for the long haul, be prepared to play over them throughout the rest of your days. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and as usual, I welcome your likes, comments, and questions. Also, if this is your first time on the Jazz Guitar channel, be sure to subscribe so you'll be notified of my upcoming lessons. And until we meet again, here is another related lesson which I recommend you watch.